Alright.
Listen up!
So January is usually that time where a bunch of studios just dump a lot of the movies that they don't care for into theaters, but now that streaming's around, that's kind of become the new Walmart bargain bin, turning January into this middle ground for theaters. And well, plane has fallen. I love how they had screenings where they were giving out boarding passes instead of tickets. This is a movie that knows the right balance of being goofy, but also brutal when it comes to the action, and the fact that the cast knew exactly who the star was, it was a given it was going to be successful. Now they even have a sequel in the works that's legitimately titled Just Ship, and it's expanding the TCU. So if you saw the trailer and were kind of interested, I'd give it a decent rented, especially if you wanted a solid action throwback. So just so you know, full spoilers from here on out.
That's your plan. Oh, you have a better one.
Let me explain. So the movie follows pilot Brody on his New Year's Eve flight, which he's forced to finish in order to go see his daughter Daniella in Hawaii, but things haven't really been going great for him. It's been 3 years since his wife passed, and after going full Sparta on a drug passenger once, they've given him just the crappiest flights to fly, with more bags under his eyes than in the cargo.
We'll be taking off just as soon as I learn a few pages of this flight manual. Thank you. Ready for pushback? Ready for pushback.
One of the funniest parts is how small the plane is. It's literally holding the cast of a 90-minute thriller. But for real, COVID flights were lower than this. Damn near have more hostesses than there are passengers. It's so compact. They're fitting 34 rows into 22.
I'm in 34D.
It's fine, ladies. That row there is all yours.
Ma'am, you sure? Early on, it also has you looking at everyone suspiciously since you don't know what everyone's up to. You're wondering why some of these flight attendants are late, what these grumpy guys are hiding. They even have Colter playing this dude named Gaspar, who's getting extradited to Canada for a homicide from 15 years ago.
Well, it looks like they're pushing us through weather.
Of course they are.
Since the airline is so greedy, they have him fly through a geostorm, and he doesn't even have his headlights on. The turbulence gets so bad that a hostess gets toasted. The cop who's watching over Gaspar was trying to send a new message from scratch for whatever reason, and that's what did him. And in less than 30 minutes, they've landed the plane and are out of it.
The goddamn plane's falling apart!
The movie now turns into Jungle as Brody becomes their Rambo, because it really is highlighting him. Not only has Gerard been producing a lot of his movies, so he's the one who gets to call the shots on set, but this man is damn near playing the plane. They're both the leads in this movie. When the plane gets hurt, so does he. If it's hit on the right, he's clutching there too. He's the one who fought against the studio to keep the title in its plain old text.
They'll tell you when you buy your ticket how old the plane will be.
Oh, no need to worry, folks. These planes are pretty much indestructible.
They actually built a rig for the cabin of the plane, so when it was coming down, they were actually shaking them like Mentos and Diet Coke. There's even a point where they bobbled his head so bad that it hit the set.
After the take, I saw blood. So he was wounded. So for sure, I took the I took the take for sure.
If that wasn't enough, he then got acid on him when operating on the plane.
Now I'm sticking my hand between these two wheels, kind of pretending that I know what I'm doing, and it's so shot. Whatever's in there is every time I bring my hands out, they're covered in blood and green fluid, right? And I'm like, I don't know what this green fluid is. We're also shooting in Puerto Rico, so I'm covered in sweat and the adrenaline, and the nose is running, everything, and it's in my throat, it's in my mouth, it's up my nose, it's in my eyes, it's burning my face, and I mean burning. And it turns out this is essentially phosphoric acid. and the airline pilots that were there watching go, no, they're trying to put water on my face. Don't put water! It'll make it worse! And I'm just burning a lot. So
even the audio was pretty raw. There was points where it was just peaking.
I need everybody off the plane now!
Brody decides to head into the wild and takes Gaspar with him since they both have combat experience.
French Foreign Legion. Paying benefits suck, but you don't ask any questions if you can hack it.
And while they're out there, they immediately find a way to make a call, but still can't phone home.
Carmen, listen carefully. This is an emergency.
We've been getting prank calls all day about this.
Shut up and listen. After that call was cut off,
Carmen was fired. This leads to one of the best one-take fight scenes of the movie that doesn't pull a Liam Neeson. It's all hand-to-hand, no cuts, and I completely respect that.
We shot that whole sequence with one camera. That never, rarely happens. The whole fight sequence in one. Normally, you have different cameras covering different hits, and then they chop it to shit.
Meanwhile, the airline has called in a crisis manager, and that's where they hit you with that split between the enemies and the crash site, where they're at right now, to the greedy corporations who technically stranded them there.
We're doing everything we possibly can to find Flight 119, sparing no expense.
They find out that they're in the Philippines, but specifically a Jolo cluster of islands with no government or police, so they don't get any letters. And they bring up the ghosting of Malaysia 370, purposefully ignore MH17, as they try to spin the PR in a positive light, since, you know, the pilot just so happens to be Scottish action star Gerard Butler.
Idiot sent them flying through that.
I thought they could fly above it.
You thought? What are you, a fucking meteorologist too? How much fuel did you save?
About 12,000.
Well, congratulations, that's barely tip money on this deal.
The bad guys eventually show up to the crash site and gather the survivors, kidnapping them since our heroes are a far cry away, and even offing 2 of them since they insulted the plane earlier.
I'll tell you when you buy your ticket how old the plane will be.
No kidding.
Brody and Gaspar then interrogate some of the stragglers in order to rescue the passengers. That's where Brody leaves behind a note for whatever help is coming. And when it does come, it's these good Samaritan mercs who don't even have a plan for how they're going to take people back. Like, they just came with enough money to fit a bag. But, you know, they did have some pretty cool body cam shots.
My passengers, my responsibility.
The duo hunts down the survivors to where they were bussed, and once they find them, they re-put them on the bus again. But this time, they're actually really happy that a convicted killer was on board. In order to escape, Brody turns himself in as a distraction. He really was about to take out 300 on his own before the Good Samaritans come in to help. At this point, everyone starts dropping more lead than a high school. This guy goes from being the captain now to getting capped down as the extraction team realizes that they completely forgot about the extraction part.
Where are we going?
Right to the plane. What?
So now, they go from jungle back to the same damn plane that crash landed them there.
Makes sense.
The last fight does go all out, though. Gaspar is able to snatch the money and make it to a sequel with less scars than Luke Cage.
You too, my Capitan.
They end up bringing out the big boy bullets that just, like, pierce the sound system louder than a walk among the tombstones did. They're even moving the plane like it's making a 2-wing turn before pulling a flyby. Guess that's why they call it a runway. In the end, they're able to magically create a landing strip to get everybody out, as all the survivors, cast, and crew literally give Gerard Butler a round of applause for saving the day and delivering to us a decent action flick, plain and simple.
Then we're gonna make a movie called Boat. You know, it's just basically everyone's gonna stay home. Subway, boat, bicycle, bus,
spacecraft. No, actually, that's boring.
Thank you all for catching this video, and I'm curious to know your thoughts down below on this one or any other action thrillers that you've seen recently. We just came back from Sundance, and there was like a bunch of, not so much thrillers, but probably another brutal movie that's definitely topping this one by the time it comes out this year. Again, I think this is Gerard just pulling his Top Gun.
Maybe so, sir. But not today.
He realizes that like he's the one who's operating the entire thing, so I really liked what he was doing with this one. I thought he had his own little mantras and embraces.
1 minute at a time. Right, Billy?
1 minute at a time. 1 minute at a time, right?
1 minute at a time.
Let me know your thoughts on this movie or any other movie that you want to see a video on down below in the comment section. And until next time, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, or Gaspar will find you.
What's your advice for those of us that fly?
Don't.